What would happen if Luffy ate other devil fruits? I have no idea. Would he become black? Would he grow afro? Would he have a long nose? I have no idea. And yeah, let's check it out.
Strongest groups of pirates.
Turn it up a little bit, because that's
some
kind
of
of
them
quiet.
are nearly as powerful as the Empress, and some
Facts.
simply have ridiculously overpowered devil fruits.
The
And yet
paw
none of
fruit.
them has ever managed to become king of the pirates, so
Besides
far
me.
at least. But what would have happened if Luffy had eaten their crazy devil fruits instead? And even though it would obviously be
Luffy would be dead. That's one thing I can't say. Unless Luffy was a Logia, he'd be dead. Off rip, because bro, having a rubber body is broken.
a ton of fun,
especially
to
for
think about
back
Luffy
then.
having Mihawk sword skills. Since we're talking about devil fruit specifically for this video, the focus will be on Crocodile's
cactus
absurdly
fruit.
powerful sand fruit,
Oh, sand.
Moria's sinister shadow fruit, Doflamingo's manipulative string fruit, and Bartholomew Kuma's unbelievably overpowered paw fruit.
I mean, it's not
Pirate
that
Empress
overpowered.
Boa Hancock was also one of the original warlords, but
That's
her
what-
fruit
that's not-
makes absolutely no sense for Luffy, so we're just not gonna include it.
I think it makes
we
perfect
do
sense.
begin in Luffy's childhood, where Kid Luffy is eyeing not only one, but five
three,
treasure
five,
boxes that Shanks'
five
crew
boxes.
has left lying around the bar. Now, one of these contains Luffy's original devil fruit, and the others have the Warlord's devil fruits that we'll assume that somehow Shanks also managed to steal. And so the always hungry Luffy sneakily steals a treasure chest and takes a bite of this weird looking
big
fruit
old bite.
inside. And as he's munching away, Shanks and the crew go absolutely bonkers. Shanks grabs his arm, and instantly a little shadow clone of Luffy comes up from the floor to slap
That'd be pretty
away
cool.
Shanks' hands. May I introduce Shadow Luffy? And before we get into all of these surprising changes that this would have on the story, let's talk for a second about devil fruits and personalities here. Because in a previous video,
Does it change
I
your
explained that
personality?
there's pretty strong evidence that devil fruits contain some sort of will of their own or a soul, and when someone eats a devil fruit, then the fruit's will affect the person who ate it.
I mean,
For
I guess,
example,
because if it physically affects you, let's just say, you know, it recedes your hairline, you're gonna be more like, you know, more, not embarrassed, that's not the word for it. You're gonna be like more secretive, you know, to hide your receding hairline. Not what I'm doing right now. I don't have a receding hairline. I just have a fat forehead. I need a haircut. That's why I keep it going. I have hair, right? I just need a haircut. So, I mean, if you really think about it, that could change your personality a tad bit. Not like a lot, like drastically, but maybe. Wait, no, that's cap. Because Big Mom, right? Before pre-eating people, she was probably a really good person or pirate. However, she turned to a, thank you for the sub. I mean, follow, by the way. I appreciate that, my brother. However, whenever she starts to, you know, she got the fruit, she became a glutton. You know, it changed her permanently. So, I mean, I guess that makes sense to an extent. I don't know if what says facts or not, but it sounds about right.
Moria, the original user of the shadow fruit, is pretty damn lazy and uses other people's shadows to do his dirty work. But was this Moria just utilizing his fruit, or was the nature of the shadow fruit encouraging
Definitely
him
utilizing
to
his
use
fruit.
the powers in this way? Similarly, Doflamingo's string fruit can literally make people into puppets, so was it just the perfect fruit for Doflamingo, or did the fruit encourage him to become an evil underground puppet master?
He'd go with
who
his fingers.
people? And we can even see a little bit of this with Luffy during his fight with Kaido, where Luffy is laughing uncontrollably after awakening his original devil fruit powers. And so because Luffy is eating a different devil fruit, his personality may actually change slightly.
Or better idea or theory. It doesn't change how you are, but it brings out your true character. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, I want you guys to quote that and put it on Reddit, Twitter, and maybe even TikTok. I want you guys to clip that. That was really good.
He may not be the guy who always bounces back from defeat, because that was the main characteristic of his original devil fruit. Also, it would probably be someone like Ace who would get his original fruit instead, but we're not gonna focus too much on that. And so with this personality influence of devil fruits in mind, let's dive right into the shadowy powers of the shadow fruit. Now, basically, this fruit allows you to manipulate shadows, both your own and other people's. On the zombie island Thriller Bark, we learned that Moria can take shadows from other people and then use them to bring corpses back to life, or to massively increase his own strength, as we've also seen.
That doesn't
Shadow
make
Luffy.
any sense.
Also, his own shadow basically becomes a second version of himself that can act independently.
Why he
so,
grip him
in
like
other
that?
words, it is a seriously powerful devil fruit. However, for Luffy, this fruit is probably the absolute worst match out of any of these 4 Warlord devil fruits. I mean, any of the other fruits in this video fit his personality way better, as we'll be seeing in just a moment, but this one right here is going to present major obstacles for Luffy. And that's because the downside of taking away someone's shadow is that they will die if they go into the sunlight. So this leaves us with 2 options. First is that Luffy doesn't ever take someone else's shadow, meaning that he doesn't use the fruit's main power, or second is that his personality is completely changed and different by the devil fruit, and in this case, Shadow Luffy would
Yeah, he must have some
no
really good
longer really
editors.
care about other people dying, so he
could've
is
swore someone
totally
moved.
fine stealing
I'm tripping.
shadows from anyone he meets and defeats. But while this clearly didn't bother Moria, I simply cannot imagine Luffy taking shadows from innocent
Give me your
people
shadow,
and then
boy.
just leaving them to die or hide in the dark for the rest of their lives. Like, that's just a completely different character. So if he isn't going to steal shadows, that basically leaves Luffy with just his own shadow to manipulate, which is still pretty badass because it is basically an unkillable copy of yourself. So let's see how far Luffy can actually go with these kind of unfitting powers for him. After training for 10 years with Garp and Ace and Sabo, I think Luffy would definitely learn how to use his shadow clone incredibly well. He can make it
100%.
appear, block attacks, fight for him, and even seamlessly swap places with his shadow. So while I don't
hate that.
think he would have any problem in the East Blue, the real challenge with this fruit comes in Alabasta against the Warlord
Yeah,
Crocodile.
he's getting
As we already
slit.
mentioned,
Yo, he is getting violated by a crocodile. Like, it's not even a competition. He's getting diffed hard.
Crocodile has the sand fruit, which turns his body into sand, and just like any Logia, this means that he is virtually untouchable unless someone has already used Haki or discovers their elemental weakness. And in the original story, Luffy was only able to defeat Crocodile by getting the sand wet with blood and water, and even then, Luffy still suffered 2 crushing defeats twice, and only lived because of a combination of luck, the allies that he had, and his rubber body, of course. However,
He calls it luck. Boys, we know what we call this, right? That is plot armor. That is nothing but plot. That ain't no luck. Luck doesn't exist in anime. That's all plot. So, yeah.
for Shadow Luffy would have none of these
Main
advantages
character
and
syndrome.
would even be much less skilled at combat. Luffy's body in this case is normal and cannot stretch, so he basically is just a normal fighter with his shadow clone. But since he cannot use Haki yet and his body wouldn't be as durable, I really don't think that Luffy would survive this encounter no matter
Not at
how
all.
you look at it. And even if he did manage to survive, he would definitely lose to some other strong fighter along the Grand Line.
Needs to go
in the
to
first
Sabaody.
half of the story.
So
And so
listen.
even though it might be a little bit surprising to see how bad Luffy would be with that fruit, I think it is goodbye Shadow Luffy for now. And if this version of Luffy couldn't even make it past the first half of the Grand Line, will any of these new devil fruits be strong enough for Luffy to become Pirates King? Well, let's just say some of these
no.
upcoming storylines are gonna be
I think this gets fondled
absolutely
by
insane. Because while
Crocodile.
the Shadow Fruit was a truly awful match for Luffy, this next one will allow him to unleash his full powers. So, reset, back to chapter 1, only this time, Hungry Kid Luffy eats this devil fruit. Shanks grabs his arm and instantly
Is that what I think that is?
Hungry
let me go
Kid
back a little
Luffy eats this devil.
What is that? This is the Quake fruit, right? Or this is the Rumble. I think it's either Quake or Rumble. Not Quake. I keep saying I don't know. I keep thinking of it's either Whitebeards or Inels, I think.
Shanks grabs his arm.
No,
and
it can't be.
instantly
Wait, what am I talking? No.
a razor-sharp string pops out
Yeah.
and cuts Shanks' hands. Looks like this time in the Devil Fruit Lottery, Luffy won the string fruit. And
He's getting
originally,
bodied
this
still.
fruit was eaten by Don Quixote Flamingo, the warlord
he couldn't
who
get
took
past
control
Crocodile.
over the kingdom of Dressrosa. Now, this fruit is absolutely insane because it allows you to produce and control a basically infinite amount of string, which can be used to make lifelike clones, attach his string to other people to make them puppets, and even stitch together internal wounds. So not only only is this
He would just be a
fruit
crocodile
incredibly
victim.
versatile,
A
but it is
victim.
also a perfect fit for Luffy's creativity. So he will surely take advantage of the 10 years training to become a true expert at using his strings. However, since Dofi was a cold-hearted monster, we have to wonder if this fruit would make Luffy become a little bit more manipulative as well. In other words, would Luffy still gather such a loyal crew? Well, I would say yes. I mean, he probably would get the exact same awesome crew because even Doflamingo was still fiercely loyal to his core crew, so there's no contradiction there. But he was totally fine using other people, and while I don't think that Luffy will follow completely in Dofi's footsteps here, there are plenty of ways for him to use the strings without controlling innocent people, so he can basically use it to its full ability. And compared to Luffy's base rubber form, String Luffy is arguably a lot stronger. I mean, he can fly like Spider-Man, fire string bullets, and even cut with his sharp string. So I do think that Luffy would have an even easier time in the East Blue than in the original story, if we're being honest. And so let's move ahead to the first major challenge. Again, Crocodile. Now, Luffy would have a much harder time discovering the secret of Logia fruit weaknesses because most of Luffy's strings attacks come from a distance. He will have a harder time learning that his blood or water can actually allow him to hurt the sand fruit user. However, because Luffy is able to fly around and doesn't have to physically punch, he would probably survive way longer during the fight and eventually learn the secret to defeat Crocodile. Or maybe he even traps Crocodile in a super compact ball of string and dumps him into the ocean or something like that.
Wait, it doesn't make sense. How can you do that if he's gonna phase through it? He's Saiyans. That literally makes no sense. How are you gonna wrap him up if he's Saiyan? He's gonna go through it. What?
However, the lightning fruit user NL is on a completely different level.
Oh, wait, I forgot about Sky Pete. Yeah, good luck. Without rubber, early Luffy's getting destroyed. I'm just saying. There was no way he says that nasty string fruit. Okay, let's just...
Luffy does not have the natural rubber immunity, and he doesn't yet have Haki. The lightning fruit user would probably destroy Luffy. However, it is also entirely possible that String Luffy is so smart at using his devil fruit that he could make giant string conductors to channel the lightning away from himself. Now, he still wouldn't be...
Maybe I'm wrong. You know... Oh, sneaky for the follow? I don't really see that. But string. You're not making a conductor from string. That's just not happening.
Be able to hit NL unless he uses Sea Stone. So either way, this is going to be very difficult and probably
he doesn't get past Crocodile.
Defeat, but on the other hand, maybe String Luffy is way smarter about escaping and simply runs away to survive here. After all, NL isn't a necessary boss to fight in the story. But let's assume that he does win or he just escaped, and then he would still probably need to be saved after losing to Aokiji. However, then Water 7 and Enies Lobby would be a breeze. Since he can simply fly around, I think he would have a much easier time saving Robin and defeating CP9. Because one of the biggest advantages of this fruit is that he can attack from a distance, so he doesn't even need to be close to deal insane amounts of damage to this leopard man right here. And even if Robin did get captured, Luffy could make his very own version of the birdcage to make sure that she wasn't taken away. I mean, just imagine that. Plus, Luffy could also make keys out of string to unlock her handcuffs, making her rescue a lot easier. And of course, Moria would just be a joke to fight, let's be real, especially because Luffy can
I don't think he's beating Rob Kuchi. Like, there's no shot. Because Rob is really fast. He's like very fast. And he can technically fly. He can just jump. He uses I forgot the ability's called, but he can just run and jump at him. Then sock him. I don't know. He doesn't even get past Crocodile. Like, what is this? This is a horrible take.
Even control the shadow zombies like puppets. And I don't see any real changes to Sabaody either, but Info Down would definitely be completely different. Luffy would still need help sneaking inside, but then Luffy can travel between levels super easily. He could also slice open prison bars, so it's highly likely that he could save his brother before Ace is even taken to Marineford. And even Luffy's fight with the powerful venomous Warden would also be a lot easier. Attacking from a distance means that Luffy can easily easily stay away from the Warden's deadly poison, and I do think that he has a really good chance of actually winning this fight. Same goes for his encounter with Blackbeard. Luffy could slash the Darkness Man before he ever has the chance to enact his evil plan. But for the sake of argument, let's go with the worst case scenario and say that Luffy got caught in a cloud of poison gas and Ace was still taken to Marineford. Now, although String Luffy might be able to get to Ace more easily during the epic battle, I still think he would be overwhelmed by the monstrosities fighting on the battlefield. Which leads us to the time skip, and honestly, once Luffy learns Haki, everything changes, especially with these new fruits. Luffy is now a master with his Haki-coated strings and can take on anyone, let's be real. The Fishman Hody and the evil scientist Caesar would be no problem at all. There would be no conflict in Dressrosa since Doflamingo doesn't have his string fruit and never took over the country in the first place. Now, of course, Big Mom and Kaido would still be major obstacles, but these clashes are more about superior Haki than Devil Fruit powers, so I do think Luffy would still come out on top, just like in the main storyline, leaving Luffy very well on his way to become Pirate King. And so now with one Devil Fruit turn,
I don't agree with this like at all. Like the string thing, I didn't do. No. One, he's not getting past Crocodile. Two, he's getting folded by Kaido. Like, without a doubt. Like, no shot. Not at all. Nada. Because he doesn't get he doesn't get stat amps like that from his gears. So I don't agree with that necessarily.
Turning out very bad for Luffy, and one working perfectly to continue on his journey. What will happen to Luffy's journey when he gets the two most powerful Devil Fruits on this list? So once again, cycling back to chapter 1, where Luffy has now stolen this Devil Fruit and takes a giant bite. Alarmed, Shanks grabs Luffy's arm and poof, it explodes into a cloud of sand. Shanks' jaw drops and Luffy dissolves into a pile of sand. Man. And now armed with the same fruit that defeated Shadow Luffy, let's see how far Sand Luffy can actually go.
Sand Luffy would go so far though.
You with some of the new
because Sand Luffy, he wouldn't have a problem with Alabasta because Crocodile wouldn't have any fruits. He would beat Enel because he's sand. I think the same thing would happen essentially. And since he's a Logia as well, that'd be interesting. Ooh, I mean, Smoker wouldn't have even... Ooh, wait, a lot would change if he was a Logia. Huh. Because Dragon wouldn't have to save him.
That he has to overcome with this.
Interesting.
And so now, since this is a Logia fruit which turns Luffy's entire body into sand, it is arguably the strongest of the 4 Devil Fruits in this video. Just
Very
like any other Logia fruit user, he cannot be hit by anyone who doesn't know Haki. He can transform into a cloud of sand, dry things out with a touch, and even create sharp blades of sand to attack opponents. However, as we discussed earlier, all Logia fruits have some elemental weakness, and this fruit has probably the biggest one in the whole story.
Water.
And so if Sand Luffy gets wet from water or blood, Sand Luffy versus Smoke Logia fruit user Smoker,
yeah, I forgot all about Arlong too.
Sand,
yeah, that's a problem.
Even have been captured in Lowtown in the first place. So I do think we can just let that one slip. And even if Crocodile somehow managed to take over Alabasta with sand
he
powers,
could not fight
Desert
Arlong.
Kingdom is literally the best place for Luffy to fight, so Luffy would defeat Crocodile, whatever his other fruit would be, pretty easily, I think. But the bigger question is, how will Sand Luffy do against other overpowered Logias?
Wait, like no, wait. He wouldn't be, because I was thinking, like, I was thinking since he's sand, he'd be a ground type, and, you know, it knows electric type, so it wouldn't have no effect. However, that's not how sand works. If he gets hit by lightning, you might turn to glass. So, I mean, I have no idea. No.
Or the Marine Admirals. And this, of course, will become highly dependent on the matchup.
I just thought about that.
Let's analyze these fights in detail for just a minute here. Against Enel, Sand is actually a very poor conductor of electricity, so while Luffy might not be completely unaffected by lightning like he was with his rubber buddy, he still would have a very strong chance, since all lightning would do is basically make his sand a little bit hotter. But while Luffy might do very well in Skypiea, once he comes down to the sea, he would face his absolute worst worst matchup in the story against the Ice Logia user Aokiji.
What do you mean
and
his
since
worst
Aokiji would
matchup?
have a near constant source of melting ice, and he does know Haki on top of that, there's basically a 0 chance that Luffy would win this fight.
Yeah, but that's fine. He didn't win in the original fight as well. So what's the point?
Way. And as a result, Aokiji would probably demand of Luffy that he subscribes to the channel for more of these
I agree. We're about to hit 5K, so you watching right there, subscribe to the channel. You know, it takes 2 seconds. And yeah, keep going.
Videos or else. And then the story would progress pretty much the same all throughout the time skip when Luffy would finally learn Haki. Now, this makes the post time skip even easier since he can now fight pretty much anyone, including Logia Fruit users. But all this changes when we reach the most fearsome opponents, Big Mom and Kaido. And as we've already discussed, these battles are intense clashes of supreme Haki, and surely, most definitely, Sand Luffy would stand no chance here. And before you go crazy in the comments, let me explain for a second. In chapter 886, we're being told in a flashback that Haki blossoms mostly during intense battles. However, since Sand Luffy's Logia powers gave him a much easier time during the post-time skip, he really hasn't had the chance to endure the same struggles which allowed him to truly master Haki. Which then, of course, comes back to bite him in this fight, as Kaido and Big Mom would absolutely destroy him and his underdeveloped Haki.
Why wouldn't you say that too for the shrink fruit? Because you made it seem like it was a breeze as well, so therefore it should be the same result with this. And he would still lose to Kaido and Big Mom. Like I said, listen, I'm cooking right now. My brain is on 10 heat.
Bringing an end to Sand Luffy in Wano. And so with 3 fruits down and the most important one to go, it brings us to the final and most life-changing fruit in this video, which is unlike any of the previous 3. Back in the bar, Luffy takes a bite of the last mysterious fruit. Shanks loses his mind and grabs him, staring at the strange paw pads on Luffy's hand. But then Luffy freaks out and a huge explosion of air demolishes the entire building. Whoopsie. And this begins the most interesting part of any of these what-if scenarios. Because you see, the Pawpaw fruit was one of my top 5 most overpowered devil fruits in a recent video, and its powers are truly mind-boggling. It was used by the former warlord Bartholomew Kuma, and its powers allow you to repel anything. This means that any kind of attack can easily be blocked, but even crazier is that you can repel things like air to make a compression bomb, or you can push yourself so far that you can literally travel across the world. And yet the most insane part of this entire fruit is that it can even repel intangible concepts like pain or memories from a person's body as well.
Yeah, now, I saw that scene. It makes no sense.
Imagine Luffy learning to control this fruit and all of the wild imaginative things that he could do with it. I mean, the potential for Luffy and this fruit are basically limitless. For example, could he push pain out of himself to heal? Could he push hunger out of himself?
What? That doesn't even make sense. Like, yeah, you push the feeling of pain out your body, but you're still hurt. Why is there a Big Mac in bro saying
to make it so that he never gets hungry? Or how about his stupidity? Could he just make himself smarter? So after 10 years of intense training, Luffy wouldn't even need a ship. He can simply push himself across the sea to wherever he wants to go. And while I don't think that Luffy will be a master of this fruit just yet, because he probably wouldn't know the world's geography too well, he should be able to do small pushes to keep him in the air and go between the next island. And right off the bat, one of the most interesting questions with this fruit is, would Paw Luffy even gather a crew? For example, while Kuma was a founding member of the Revolutionary Army, we almost always see him alone by himself. Was that just Kuma's personality or lack thereof? Or was it something about this fruit that naturally repelled other people? And if we
Because if they manifest the characteristics of the Devil Fruit, I think that would be the case. But if it doesn't, I think Luffy will still have a crew. Because having a crew just makes everything easier still. Even if you're by yourself with a broken Devil Fruit, it still makes it a lot easier to have a crew. So I think he would, especially Sanji, because he loves food. So I don't know. I have no idea.
If we do apply that same idea to Luffy, would this fruit make him less willing to gather a crew as a result? However, for now, let's assume that Pa Luffy still meets Zoro and Nami, but things completely change once they steal the map of the Grand Line from this clown right here. You see, Pa Luffy is super excited about the Grand Line just like regular Luffy, and before Nami can even talk it out of him, Luffy launches all three of them straight to the entrance of the Grand Line, Reverse Mountain. But as they're hanging in the air, Nami is shouting at Luffy demanding that he take them back for obvious reasons. Meanwhile, Luffy and Zoro argue about which direction to take. And of course, knowing these two, instead of entering the much safer starting point of the Grand Line, they take a completely wrong turn and end up near the end of the Grand Line at Egghead Islands. And this wrong turn nearly spells the end of the massively unprepared crew of three. First, they land at the secret laboratory of the genius scientist Dr. Vegapunk. And of course, Vegapunk is incredibly interested in Luffy's paw powers. That's because we recently learned that Kuma used the fruit to aid Vegapunk's research. However, Luffy would of course have no interest in staying behind to do some sort of science, so he does launch the group across the sea straight onto this evil-looking skull dome, and this is of course the home of the Emperor of the Sea, Kaido.
Yeah,
now, at this point, Nami is seriously regretting ever joining Pa Luffy, as is Zoro probably. But while sneaking around the islands, they meet Yamato, the child of Kaido, who has been trapped on the island by her father. However, of course, Yamato knows exactly who Luffy is since she met with Ace a couple of years ago, and she is desperate to go out to sea with the trio. And so Luffy uses his paw powers to push off the handcuffs just as Kaido finds them. And he is very unhappy that these random, very weak-looking pirates have managed to invade his castle. He charges up a full Dragon Blast, and Nami is screaming with fear, but Luffy just grabs them all, pushes them out to safety, all the way back to the East Blue, where Nami has been begging to go back to ever since. And after landing, the crew is absolutely exhausted, but Luffy and Yamato think it was very hilarious, while Nami is furious and Zoro just wants to take a nap and some booze. But it's at this point that Nami beats into Luffy's head that she can't just skip ahead because there are people way too powerful for them. And so Luffy does decide to actually do things right and build a proper crew with a real ship. And honestly, with Yamato along for the ride, this changes everything because she is nearly as strong as Kaido already. So the East Blue is pathetically easy for them.
Everybody's
pathetic, the Grand Line full of confidence. But Yamato isn't only a super strong New World fighter, she also knows everything about Haki. So she's able to teach the entire crew the basics very early on. And this allows the crew to easily take out Crocodile, Enel, and even give Aokiji an incredibly difficult and close fight. I mean, Yamato also has ice powers, and since this version of Luffy uses the paw fruit instead of Kuma, this means that the crew would not be separated at Sabaody. They would still need to escape from Kizaru, but with Rayleigh's help, I think that they would be able to all get away super safely. Which now of course brings us to Marineford, where this buffed up version of the Straw Hat crew comes ever so close to saving Ace. However, even still, the combined force of the Marines is just a little bit too much. And
really? I feel like Yamato will be able to handle everybody there. Or maybe I'm tripping, because Akainu is really strong, so I don't know who else is there. I know Akainu is there. Aokiji, I think. Blackbeard. Whitebeard. And I think Ace and... not Ace. Obviously Ace. I think Mihawk and Shanks was there too, but I'm not too sure because I haven't watched Marineford, so I don't know. But I think they are from a clip I've seen, but that could have been a different point in time. So
is eventually still
who knows?
Which does bring us to the time skip. Now, it is possible that
the Yamato is really strong though.
Island right away since they are all together, but I still do think that this crushing defeat would mean that they still decide to wait and train for a bit before heading into the new world. However, when they do enter the new world after the time skip,
for the follower sub. I appreciate that.
Even more motivation to take down Kaido because Yamato would definitely have told them all about the situation on Wano. She might even recognize these two samurai right away, and the Straw Hats would definitely want to help save their country right from the get-go. On top of that, the crew would pretty easily move through Dressrosa, which brings us to the Emperor's Saga. And honestly, this part of Pawfruit Luffy's story is a little bit difficult to speculate about because, of course, the most important part about fighting any of the Yonko is having incredibly strong Haki. But we don't exactly know how Haki interacts with Luffy's Devil Fruit. So unless Luffy becomes an absolute powerhouse with this Devil Fruit, he might struggle with some of the strongest fighters like Kaido or Big Mom. Or he might just have to learn to fight with his bare hands and feet in order to really use his Haki powers. At the same time, the limits of the Pawfruit are still very much unknown, so it's possible that Luffy could just become the most overpowered Devil Fruit user and simply defeat everyone with the Pawfruit. For example, could he just push the soul out of Big Mom's homies? Or could he push a Devil Fruit power out of someone like Kaido, making him lose all of his dragon
That would be
powers?
broken. Imagine him pushing somebody's soul
this
out.
fruit is just wild, and until we know more about it, it is really hard to say how Luffy would fare against the strongest fighters in the story. But the biggest question for all of these Devil Fruits is if Luffy would still become the Pirate King. Shadow Luffy would definitely not, and I think that Sand Luffy would not make it as well. However,
I don't think String will make it. To be honest, String is... I don't see him getting past Crocodile. And if he does, that's like maybe he does. He's not getting past him though.
String Luffy, and especially Paw Luffy, definitely have a major chance to pursue the ultimate dream. But one thing that will be the same no matter what fruit Luffy has is Luffy's rivals. Blackbeard and Shanks are the ultimate powers standing in the way, and if you want to see what might happen if Luffy fought Blackbeard and Shanks at the same time One Piece, you can watch that video right here. Shanks for watching.
You're welcome. Alright, that was that. Let me guys know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video and subscribe as well. And yeah, see you guys next one. Bye bye. Look at that, boys.